You ever wake up one morning and before your feet even hit the floor, something feels off? You don't know why, you just feel it. You're short with people, you're heavy, you're tired, and before you know it, that feeling starts controlling your whole day. See, most people, they don't realize how much power they give away every single morning. They let their emotions drive the car, while their purpose sits in the back seat. But here's the truth. If you don't learn to master your emotions will master you. Now listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel. You're not a machine. You're a living, breathing, beating heart wrapped in skin and bone. You're supposed to feel. That's part of being human. Anger, fear, sadness, doubt, they're all part of the journey. They each carry a message. They're the universe's way of getting your attention, whispering, sometimes shouting, that something inside you needs to be seen, understood, or changed. But somewhere along the line, we started treating those feelings like commands instead of clues. We started letting them drive when they were only ever supposed to guide. Emotions are signals, not instructions. They're messengers, that's all. But the danger comes when you start giving them authority they were never meant to have. See, when anger tells you, this isn't fair, that's information. When fear says, be careful, that's awareness. But when you let anger make your decisions or fear dictate your direction, you've handed over the keys. And once you do that, you're no longer leading your life. You're being led by whatever emotion happens to show up that day. Think about it. A pilot flying through a storm doesn't quit when the alarms start ringing. Those alarms aren't there to scare him. They're there to inform him. He doesn't panic, doesn't slam on the controls, doesn't abandon the cockpit. He listens. He checks his instruments. He adjusts. He keeps flying because he knows something most of us forget. The alarm isn't the problem. The alarm is a message telling him how to get through the problem. That's what mastering your emotions looks like. It's not pretending you don't feel the turbulence. It's not faking calm when your world feels like it's shaking apart. It's having the discipline to stay in that cockpit, hands steady on the controls, and fly through it anyway. You don't silence the alarm. You understand it. You don't fight the storm. You navigate it. How many times have you said or done something in a moment of anger that you later regretted? We've all been there. In that heat, emotion takes over. You don't think, you react. But once the storm settles, once the adrenaline fades, you see things differently. That's because emotions are temporary, but the choices you make under their control can last a lifetime. That's why learning to listen to your emotions without becoming them is one of the most powerful skills you can ever develop. When sadness hits, it's not telling you that life is over, it's showing you what matters. When fear shows up, it's not always there to stop you. Sometimes it's reminding you that you're stepping into something bigger than yourself. And when anger rises, it's often revealing a place where your boundaries have been crossed or where something needs to change. These feelings aren't your enemies, they're your teachers. But teachers don't take the test for you. They prepare you to take it yourself. So when that alarm starts blaring inside you, don't hand over the controls. Don't let that temporary wave steer your permanent direction. Step back. Breathe. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Then decide from a place of understanding, not impulse. Because the truth is, life will always bring storms. The winds will come, the alarms will sound, and the rain will fall. But if you can learn to see your emotions as messages, not masters, you'll never lose your way. You'll keep flying even through the darkest clouds. You'll move with clarity, not chaos. And when you land, when the storm clears, you'll realize something powerful. It wasn't the storm that made you stronger. It was your ability to stay calm inside it. You can't control what you don't even see. That's the first truth about mastering your emotions. You have to notice them. You have to recognize when they're showing up, because if you don't, they'll sneak into your life and quietly become your identity. You don't wake up one day and realize, oh, I'm an anxious person or I'm a bitter person. No, it starts small, with little moments that go unchecked. A sharp word said in frustration, a decision made out of fear, a missed opportunity because doubt whispered in your ear. And before you know it, those emotions are running the show. You think you're in control, but really you've been asleep at the wheel. So you start by noticing. When you feel anger rising, don't just react. Pause. Take a breath. Look at it straight in the eye and ask yourself, why am I feeling this? When fear creeps in, don't run from it. Stop, breathe, name it. Say it out loud if you have to, I am afraid. When doubt whispers, challenge it. Ask, is this true? Or is this my mind playing tricks on me? Awareness is the doorway. Awareness is the spark that lights the path from chaos to clarity. Psychologists talk about a simple but powerful practice called name it to tame it. It works because words have power. When you say, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious, I'm disappointed, you're no longer lost in the wave of that feeling. You've moved from being in the emotion to observing it. And that space, that pause between feeling and reacting, that's where freedom lives. That's where power lives. Because once you can see it, you can change it. Think about a time when you were in a heated argument. Maybe you snapped at someone you loved. Later, you replayed it in your mind and realized, I was angry, but it wasn't really about them. It was about me. That's the difference awareness makes. When you recognize what you're feeling and why, you stop letting the emotion control your actions. You stop handing over the steering wheel to fear, frustration, or doubt. Instead, you take a breath, you center yourself, and you respond from a place of choice. Awareness also allows you to see patterns in your life. Maybe every time you get criticized, you feel a spike of fear or shame. Maybe every time a deadline looms, frustration starts to bubble. By noticing these moments, you start to map your emotional landscape. You see where the triggers are. You understand the signals, and once you understand them, you can prepare for them, adjust your response, and break cycles that have held you back for years. It's not magic. It's not pretending your emotions don't exist. It's facing them head on, calling them out, and deciding that they will not dictate your life. When you practice this, you start to live in reflection instead of reaction. You start to choose your responses instead of being hijacked by impulse. You start to realize that your emotions are part of you. Yes, but they are not all of you. And here's the truth. The more you practice awareness, the stronger you get. Life doesn't get easier, but your ability to navigate it does. You won't be perfect. You'll still feel fear. You'll still feel anger. You'll still feel doubt. But you'll recognize it, name it, and use it as a signal rather than a sentence. Because awareness is the first step toward mastery. And mastery, my friend, is what keeps you from being controlled. That's where real power begins. Let me be clear about something. Controlling your emotions is not about bottling them up, hiding them, or pretending they don't exist. That's not control. That's avoidance. Real control is about discipline. Discipline is about showing up for yourself over and over, even when your emotions are screaming at you to act impulsively. It's about training yourself to respond instead of react. It's about refusing to let temporary feelings dictate permanent decisions. Look at the people you admire, the ones you call great. Athletes, leaders, parents, anyone who's left a mark on the world. You know what they have in common? They feel the same anger, fear, doubt, and frustration you feel. They face the same setbacks, the same obstacles, the same moments where they could give in and let emotion take over. But they don't. They've built the discipline to pause, to take a breath, and to respond intentionally. They've learned that in the heat of the moment, every choice you make either builds you or breaks you, and they choose to build themselves. Take Michael Jordan, for example. He was pushed, doubted, criticized. People pointed out every weakness they thought he had. But he didn't let frustration or ego drive him. He didn't lash out in anger or let disappointment freeze him in place. He turned those feelings into fuel. He looked at the very thing people thought would hold him back and said, I will use this. I will transform it. I will make it my strength. That is discipline in action. That is emotional mastery. And here's the key. Just like physical strength, emotional strength doesn't happen overnight. You've got to train it. You've got to work it like a muscle. Every time you take a deep breath instead of snapping in anger, that's a rep. Every time you respond with patience instead of irritation, that's a rep. Every time you remain calm when everything inside you wants to explode, that's a rep. And with each rep, you grow stronger. Your resilience grows. Your clarity grows. Your ability to navigate life grows. It's not about never feeling frustration or fear. That's impossible. It's about making those feelings work for you instead of against you. It's about recognizing them, understanding them, and then using them as fuel to move forward with purpose. You see, emotions in themselves are not the enemy. Uncontrolled emotions are. And the only way to keep them from controlling you is to train yourself to respond with intention over and over again until it becomes second nature. Think about a parent raising a child, a leader guiding a team, or anyone facing pressure in their life. There are countless moments where they could let frustration win. They could let the heat of the moment dictate what they say or do. But the difference between those who succeed and those who falter is discipline. They've learned to feel, acknowledge, and then act in alignment with their values and their vision. They don't react, they respond. They don't explode, they endure. And in doing so, they teach themselves and everyone around them the power of composure. Discipline in emotional management is not easy. It requires patience, repetition, and self-awareness, but it is powerful. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you are not just controlling a moment, you are shaping your life. You are building a foundation that cannot be shaken by anger, frustration, or fear. You are training yourself to be unshakable, to be strong, to be intentional. And that, my friend, is the essence of true power. Let me tell you something. Perspective is everything. And I mean everything. It's the difference between walking through life like a victim of your circumstances and walking through life like a master of your own journey. Too many people let their emotions tell the story of their life, and that story is often a lie. It whispers in your ear that you failed, that you lost, that you were rejected. And if you believe that story, you're lost before you even try. But here's the truth. You didn't fail, you learned. You didn't lose, you grew. You didn't get rejected, you got redirected. Those emotions, they're not the enemy. They're the messenger. But only if you're willing to see them for what they are. Emotions can only control you if you give them power. If you believe the story they tell. Anger says you've been wronged. You could sit there and stew in it, letting it poison your choices. Fear says you can't do it. You could let it freeze you in place. Doubt says you're not enough. You could surrender to it and walk away. But you don't have to. Because perspective allows you to rewrite the story. It allows you to see the bigger picture, to step back and look at your life through a lens of growth instead of defeat. Maybe that delay you're facing isn't a roadblock, it's development. Maybe that hardship isn't punishment, it's humility. Maybe that pain isn't destruction, it's preparation. Life has a way of teaching you lessons in the hardest ways possible. And when you start seeing challenges as teachers instead of enemies, something incredible happens. Your emotions stop being roadblocks. They stop being chains that hold you down. They become road signs. They guide you. They signal where you need to grow, where you need to change, where you need to focus. I want you to picture this for a moment. You're climbing a mountain. Every step is hard. The wind is strong, the rocks are loose, and the summit seems impossible. You're tired, you're sore, and maybe you're thinking about turning back. But perspective changes everything. You start to look at the climb differently. Each challenge becomes a teacher. Each slip becomes a lesson. Each gust of wind tests your balance, but also strengthens it. You begin to realize this isn't about how easy it is. It's about how much stronger you're becoming with every step. That's perspective. That's emotional mastery. And here's what most people don't understand. Perspective isn't something that just happens. You have to choose it. You have to step back when the emotions are screaming at you to act, to lash out, to give up. You have to look at the situation with honesty, with patience, with clarity, and ask yourself, what is this really teaching me? What is this really for? When you do that, even the darkest moments start to have meaning. Even the setbacks become stepping stones. You start to see life not as a series of punches you have to survive, but as a series of lessons you have the power to learn from. Perspective changes how you feel about failure, rejection, and pain. It changes how you move through life, how you make decisions, how you respond to challenges. When you embrace it, you stop being at the mercy of your emotions. You stop letting frustration or fear or disappointment drive your choices. You start seeing with clarity. You start choosing with power. You start living with purpose. And let me tell you, nothing is more freeing than that. Nothing is more powerful than knowing that you can see the same situation that made someone else bitter and use it to make yourself better. Perspective doesn't just change how you see the world. It changes how you live in it. It gives your emotions meaning instead of giving them control. It turns every challenge, every setback, every heartbreak, every delay into fuel. And when you see the world like that, there's nothing that can stop you. Let me break this down for you because this one's real important. There's a moment, a very small, almost invisible moment between what happens to you and how you respond to it. And that's where your freedom lives. That's where your power lives. That fraction of a second, that pause, that space, it might seem small, but it's everything. It's the difference between letting life run you over and steering your own ship. It's the difference between living with regret and living with purpose. Life will test you. People will test you. Doors will close. Words will hurt. Opportunities will disappear. Sometimes it will feel like the world is against you. And in those moments, your emotions will rise up and scream at you to lash out, to give up, to react in a way that feels good for a second, but will cost you for a lifetime. That's what most people do. They react. They let anger, fear, or frustration dictate what they say, what they do, how they move. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, why their relationships suffer, why their progress slows. But here's the truth. You can't always control what happens to you. You can't stop the rain. You can't stop the traffic. You can't stop people from disappointing you. You can't stop mistakes, losses, or setbacks. But you can always control how you respond. That's the power. That's the freedom. That's what separates those who stumble through life and those who take it by the reins. You can respond with patience when others try to push your buttons. You can respond with calm when chaos surrounds you. You can respond with understanding when someone's words sting. This isn't about perfection. It's not about pretending you're calm when inside you're burning. It's about presence. It's about awareness. It's about noticing the emotions rising in you and choosing to act from a place of clarity, not impulse. When you pause long enough to take a breath, to reflect, to assess, you create the space where power exists. And power, my friend, is not control over others. Power is control over yourself. Think about it. How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment that you wished you could take back? How many opportunities did you miss because fear made you freeze? How many relationships frayed because frustration took over before understanding could step in? That's reaction talking. That's the old way. And you can change it. You can respond differently. You can respond intentionally. You can respond in a way that aligns with the person you want to be, not the person your emotions try to force you to be. And here's the real kicker. Every time you choose response over reaction, you grow stronger. Every time you pause instead of explode, you build resilience. Every time you respond with grace instead of lashing out, you teach yourself who you really are. And little by little, day by day, those moments add up. They create a life not defined by chaos or regret, but by purpose and power. So remember this, there's always a space between what happens to you and what you do about it. And in that space lies your freedom. That's where your emotions stop being masters and start being messengers. That's where you stop being at the mercy of life and start being in charge of it. That's where true emotional mastery is born. Not perfection, not control over the world, but control over yourself. And once you start living from that place, nothing can take your power away. Look, I need you to hear me on this. The world around you is not getting any calmer. The storms aren't stopping. The deadlines aren't disappearing. The people, the pressures, the chaos, it's not going anywhere. And if you're waiting for the storm to pass before you find your peace, you're going to be waiting a long time. But here's the thing, you can get calm. You can find stillness even when the wind is blowing, even when the rain is falling, even when everything inside you is screaming. That calm, that steadiness, that presence, that's where true power lies. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean the storm disappears. It doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy or predictable. Life is messy. Life is loud. Life will challenge you, test you, knock you down. But mastering your emotions means standing still in the middle of it. It means planting your feet and saying, I feel this. I acknowledge this. But I will not be ruled by it. That's the difference between surviving and thriving. That's the difference between being tossed around by life and steering your own ship through it. When you feel overwhelmed, and you will, remember this, you are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. Those are feelings, temporary waves. They crash, they roar, they seem impossible, but they are not you. You are the observer behind them. You are the presence that notices, the mind that reflects, the heart that chooses. You are the calm in the storm, and that calm is your weapon. That calm is your freedom. Control your emotions, and you control your destiny. It's that simple, and yet most people overlook it. Power isn't about shouting over the noise. Power isn't about lashing out and proving yourself. Real power, real strength is quiet. It's deliberate. It's unshakable. It's steady in the eye of the storm while chaos rages all around. It's the difference between a life defined by reaction and a life defined by choice. That's what emotional mastery gives you. That's what it means to take the reins of your own life. A pauses, lowers voice slightly, so breathe deeply. Let the tension leave your shoulders. Let your chest expand and contract with intention. Focus. Ground yourself in the truth that you are bigger than the fear that whispers in your ear. You are stronger than the anger that wants to dictate your words. You are wiser than the doubt that questions your worth. And no matter how hard the storm hits, you keep flying that plane. You adjust the controls. You chart your course. You keep moving forward step by step, decision by decision. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. You were built to rise above it. You were built for storms. You were built to face pressure and still stand tall. You were built to feel, to acknowledge, and then to choose. And every time you do, every single time, you prove to yourself that no storm, no setback, no challenge, no voice, internal or external, can take away your power unless you let it. So remember, this calm is strength. Presence is power. Reflection is freedom. Stand in the middle of your storm. See the emotions for what they are and choose. Choose to rise. Choose to lead yourself. Choose to keep flying no matter what, because the storm is temporary. But the person who masters it, that person lasts. That person wins. That person soars. And that person is you.